This is panel 4, which is about exit planning, and we've got two great speakers. We've got Bob Haugh, who is a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder of the travel department, which he sold a significant stake into private equity company MML. He is also the founder of a number of other businesses, including Oroco, which is a luxury travel business. He is also a helicopter pilot, a pilot, a hot air balloonist, a martial artist, and an occasional Airbnb host for the likes of Taylor Swift. Noel is from Wexford. He's not doesn't fly helicopters.
Make this as good as you can. Following that,
hot air balloons. But he is an expert in corporate finance, and they're both here to talk a little bit about exit planning. But I guess, Bob, just first of all, maybe just talk a little bit about, you know, the travel department, the first business that you built.
Sure. Travel department is an escorted tour operator. So fundamentally we take groups of 50 people who would be strangers to each other. We put together a package which include flights, coach transfers, tour guides, hotels, restaurants, the whole lot. The market will be typically 60 years of age plus. So it gives people that security, confidence, fully worked out itinerary, one price, very little customization allowed, and very scalable to the extent that the world is our oyster. We operate to probably over 50 countries around the world now, all from the UK and from Ireland. So I started that business pretty much after I left school. I got a summer job in Budget Travel, which was Ireland's probably largest tour operator at the time, owned by Gillian Bowler and Harry Sidner. I was there for about 3 years, and then I did a short stint in a school tour company, and I kind of adapted that model. I was about 23 when I started the travel department, and I kind of adopted that model of a school tour and turned into a similar type of itinerary, but for people who would spend more money and of an older age profile.
And Bob, you're running this business, and it's a phenomenally successful business. You know, it's profitable quite early on, and it stays that way. How did you start to think, about an exit, and what was that experience like?
We had a few approaches over the years. One by a very large airline. They came knocking on our door. It was kind of a circuitous route, but they found me. And that process ran for the best part of, let's say, close to a year. But I think over time, I probably realized that they probably wanted me more than the company, and I wasn't really prepared to bring myself into the airline industry, particularly not that one. And then TUI, the German tour operator, approached us as well. And so I suppose they had kind of sown the seed in my mind that someday I probably would want to exit. And for various reasons, the TUI one didn't happen. They were in the process of buying a big buying first choice holiday, so they didn't have the bandwidth to complete. But they very much liked the business. As you said, we were very profitable from very early on. We had a very small workforce. I mean, we got to an EBITDA of about almost 6 million with about 24 people, I think. But we were young and we were clueless, it was just bananas, and we did work 100 hours a week, and we knew how much money we had made about a year later when we had the audit done. So it was that kind of crazy time. I was young, and so I suppose, I probably, you either sell your business, it fails, or you work until you die. They're probably your options in life, and I think an exit was something I wanted. And certainly after the first 2 failed attempts, I kind of did see myself at some point. And also I think there's a phase of a business where I was probably good for the startup, good for creating the brand. And that takes a long time. In the words of Joe Malone, creating a brand is easy. It's just the first 10 years are difficult. So I probably had done that work, and the business probably wasn't as exciting for me. Going forward, it kind of stabilised and probably less edgy, less fun.
And Bob, how did you decide who to sell to in the end?
Who did you sell to? We went through the normal process. I had really good advisors around me, so I think that's crucially important as well. So Lorcan, who spoke earlier on, was our legal advisor. Clive, who's in the room, was an external advisor on the sidelines for me. So when we eventually went to sell, I brought in a lady, Sarah from London. She came over and she took over running the business for about a year and a half. But what I did learn from the previous journeys, particularly with the airline, was that I don't want to be the poster boy, and you shouldn't be for your company. The company shouldn't be about you. It should be about the business fundamentally. So I brought Sarah in, and I pretty much, I moved from my desk, one desk at a time, to the door, and then I was gone. And so when the buyers did come, when we put the sale up, the for sale sign up, and they came, I didn't really meet all of them. Sarah ran the process. We found an advisory firm in the UK because we'd imagined that the buyer was going to be a UK company, given the scale of the company, of the business. There wouldn't have been, it's certainly a trade buyer wouldn't in Ireland wouldn't have the appetite to buy it. So we then went and we put the sale up. We signed up and we got the advisors. It was Rothschild, currently Rothschild. They ran the process for us. Clive was involved, Lorcan was involved. So we had a very, very good, solid team. And that's, I think, very important also from the point of view of having a business as usual team to run your company, because once that kicks off, it is game on. It's showtime, and you don't really have much time to run the company. So we went through the process, and we had about six or seven offers, I think. And they were all very, very close in terms of the number. It was quite close. So we had a difficult decision to make because there was no outright winner. And I spoke to MML, I spoke to Neil and to Stephen there. And, I think crucially it came down, I think my view was they wanted this business more than anybody, and it was almost at a human level. I think I made that decision because we could have picked one of probably four. And I also had some good advice from, which is I think is a very important thing if you can. There was a couple of private equity firms in the UK that didn't look at the business, but I knew the guys from previous over the years. So I could go to one or two of them and say, Colm or Gavin or Stuart, what do you think of these three? But they know the other guys probably better than anybody because they come up against them all the time, and the people move from one firm to the other. So they have a good handle on the market. But I think NNL just showed real passion for the business. They kind of looked in the eye and said, we would love to do this deal. The others didn't. And I was hanging in there for a shareholding for a few years. And it's very important that, you have two exits generally, the first and probably the second, maybe more. But it's not the day one that's always the important one, because once you lose control after the first and you're in the second round, you're pretty much, you're a passenger at that point. So it's very important to pick a firm, a buyer that shares your values and that will do you right in the longer term as well, not just the day one check.
And in preparation for that, what are the practical steps that, a business needs to take, when it's preparing to get ready for due diligence?
Well, it was interesting to hear Bob speak about the selling process, and he talked about the excitement almost of getting offers in. And I always describe that part of the process as acting like a full forward. You're attacking, you're getting your best price. The minute diligence hits, you're starting to act like the full back because you've established a price. And you're almost in defensive mode as you walk into due diligence. So I think the first port of call for any purchaser will be to interrogate the financials. So clarity around the financials is so crucial. So Jennifer spoke of it earlier, that clear, concise and timely management information is crucial as part of the due diligence process. You're trying to instill confidence in a buyer at that stage. So that the timeliness and quality of information is crucial. Budgets and forecasts, they have to be realistic. It can't be pie in the sky. The audited accounts, it is important that they are clean, unqualified, and fully supported by supporting backup information. It's all the boring stuff, but it drives so much confidence in buyers. We're talking about strategy today. It's very, the strategic plan can be that a business has as it walks into the sale process can be all important. And the reason I say that is if you can demonstrate a strategic plan Up to a point, because a business scale can happen at any stage during the strategic plan of the business. But if you can demonstrate that historic actions or thought processes were actually delivered, that will support the realistic future plan that is within that plan, and that'll make buyers excited. It'll bring it into real focus. A couple of simple things. Then I suppose the legal housekeeping is all important. Once again, driving confidence. Have the contracts with suppliers, customers, staff all documented, all enforceable. The thing that causes me some sleepless nights and absolutely adds to the length of the deal process is property, be it leases, be it the actual freehold. You know, the amount of times I've gone back to is the fire safety cert in there? Is the map accounting for that 2 square foot that is owned in freehold? All important stuff.
Just, it might be a question for either of you, but just in terms of timing, how important is that when you're selling an SME business?
Timing, like there's 3 things in my mind when I think about timing. Number 1, the business has to be ready, right? And what does that mean? Well, it can't be completely focused on the founder. It can't be completely focused on the CEO. The buyer wants to know that there is going to be a smooth transition, and ultimately it will be the systems that the business have in place. Shorten Jarlath spoke about it. That's what the buyer is looking to sit into. So the business has to be ready. Personal goals are all important. You touched on it, Bob. There's everything in the pot when you're thinking of that. It's an emotional decision. There's an attachment to that business over a period of years. So the founder themselves have to be ready to sell. And I suppose when you're looking out at market cycles, it's very hard to know what side of the bed our American and Russian friends get out of sometimes. But it's just about being I suppose as a business owner, it's just about being conscious of what's out there for you at any given time. But the crucial piece is be ready, business ready, personally ready. Bit of look in the market cycle sometimes, you know.
And Bob, you got to the other side, but you're now investing in other businesses. You're mentoring people. You've invested in Fitzgerald Power. What advice to give to founders who are thinking about an exit?
I think about it early, on day one, ideally. I think the day you start the business is probably the day you sell your company, and so that is the direction of travel for the rest of time. That may change. The business may have often changed a bit, but I think it's very, very, very important. I think the process itself is very, very demanding. It can be very stressful if there has to be a first time, and that's a very difficult time. So be prepared, but also be prepared for the afterlife. What do you want to do after that too? Because I sold out substantially in my 40s, and was I too young? Maybe not. But I think you have to kind of have a personal plan as well, and that needs to be shared with the family, and they have to kind of understand what's going on to some extent. I think you're very clear what your role will be in the company, if any, afterwards. I didn't want a role afterwards. I'm kind of all in or all out, and I don't think I'm suited to probably that environment. I'm spending my life kind of running my own show and making decisions myself. I don't think I would fit well in, and that's probably why I didn't go to the airline opportunities. I didn't want to have a boss or have somebody to answer to. So I think you need to be very clear as to what you want out of that on a personal level. Will the money be life-changing? Will you have to work again? Really important, because if you run a business and you get X amount of money and it's not going to give you enough to live your life, well, then you're going to have to make some choices as to what you do next. And that can be a difficult choice for people, because if you may not want to go and become an employee in a company, there may not be the opportunity to stay on in the business that you're selling. So that's a big choice. But in the process itself, I think what advice do I give? It's bloody difficult. It's a very, very tough process. It's really slow. I'm probably the most impatient person I know. And I just said, Jesus, will this ever end? Yeah, it just seemed to go on forever. And we are a regulated industry. The travel business is regulated. So as much as MML did their bit, we are also held back by the Irish Against Aviation, as we call them, and other bodies, that just with licenses and the CAA in the UK and all that kind of stuff. So, as much as we want to get the deal done, we are kind of held back. But, be mentally strong, be ready for it, and be ready for the disappointment. I went through 2 failed. Now, they were fine. I wasn't terribly upset by them. But by the same token, it's hard not to get excited about the exit and then bang, suddenly, like when I went out to Dublin Airport and the deal was off, I was back to my desk and, I saw myself flying off from my helicopter to wherever and never going back to the desk again. And suddenly I was right back at it, So, and be fit, literally, and I mean it, it's a tough process. You got to stay healthy, stay well, stay mentally focused, and have people, as I did. I think they're very important on the outside. I Clive Lorcan, albeit my legal advisor, he also was, I think, picking people that are not just very bright and very good at doing deals, but also can go and you have a pint with afterwards and kind of go, okay, where's this going? Are we going the right direction?
And finally, Noel, just talk a little bit about some of the mistakes that you've seen that have reduced value, and maybe if you also want to give one kind of takeaway in terms of things that people should think about.
For sure, it's driving that confidence piece again, I think. But the over-reliance in the founder is an obvious one. It's the second layer of management that you're trying to drive. It's that what that business will look like for a buyer. You have to look forward. You have to underpin it with a system. If that system is not there for the buyer to sit in, it's just not ready for sale as a business. The weak management information as well. It's a crucial element. The financial oversee of it. And weak contracts, any verbal agreements that are in place that you think are solid. Remember, there's a relationship that is going to form between new owner. They need to sit into something very, very solid. One piece of advice: look, it's a constant process. The day you buy is the day you're getting ready to sell. Little tips is, it's all good discipline, as Bob said, to work through that through that process over years. Set up a virtual data room. That's just a place that you save those pieces of information, management, accounting information, contracts. It's just an iterative process. It'll take the stress out of the deal at the end.
Noel Winters and Bob Haugh, thank you very much for your time. Great.
Thank you.